Stop chasing success. Become the man who attracts it. You've been told your whole life to chase. Chase women. Chase money. Chase approval. Run harder, run faster. And maybe, if you're lucky, you'll catch something before it slips away. But chasing is the habit of the desperate. It puts you in the position of the beggar, looking up, asking for a scrap of attention, hoping someone or something will grant you permission to matter. And when a man lives in that posture for too long, something inside him begins to rot. His spine bends. His voice weakens. He starts to believe that worth is always somewhere else, just out of reach. I'm going to tell you something you may not want to hear. It's not the world's job to hand you anything. It's your job to become a man the world can't ignore. Think about a fire in the middle of the forest. It doesn't run around shouting, "Come and see me." It just burns bright, steady, alive. And the heat pulls everything toward it. People gather. Animals circle. The night changes shape because of that one flame. You need to be that flame, not the man sprinting through the dark, bumping into trees, looking for warmth in someone else's camp. And here's the hard truth. Becoming that flame isn't about tricks or charisma. It's about discipline. It's about holding your ground when everything in you wants to run. It's about the long hours no one sees, the choices you make when there's no applause. Look at Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, who spent his mornings not in luxury, but in self-examination. In his private writings, never meant for the world, he reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This wasn't a man chasing. This was a man anchored in his own center, and from that center, an empire listened. The first step is simple, but not easy. Stop running. Stand still. Let the noise pass. And in that stillness, begin building the kind of man success has no choice but to notice. Because the man who is rooted is the man who is sought. One of the cruelest lies you'll ever believe is the idea that you must feel ready before you act. You tell yourself, I'll start when I have more money, or I'll take the risk once I'm more confident. You wait for the day when fear disappears and certainty takes its place. That day never comes. I've seen men waste years, decades, sitting at the edge of the pool, toes in the water, waiting for it to feel right before they dive. Meanwhile, the water grows colder, their courage shrinks, and they convince themselves they were never meant to swim in the first place. Here's the truth. Readiness is not a feeling you receive. It is a muscle you build through doing. It shows up after you've taken the first steps, not before. Think of Ernest Shackleton, the polar explorer. In 1914, he set out for Antarctica with a crew who knew they might never come back. Halfway through, their ship was crushed by ice. No rescue was coming. No plan could guarantee survival. Yet Shackleton did not sit on the ice floe waiting to feel ready for leadership. He acted. He decided. And through sheer will and discipline, he brought every man home alive. That's the power of action without readiness. It forces the mind and body to adapt. It calls forth strengths you didn't know you had. But when you wait to feel ready, you remain in the shallow end of your own life, a place that's comfortable, but also where dreams come to die. So the question isn't, am I ready? The question is, am I willing to take the first step without it? The man who answers yes walks into the unknown and discovers that fear was only a shadow, never a wall. Fear has a way of dressing itself up to look bigger than it is. It puffs out its chest, sharpens its teeth, and tells you stories about what will happen if you dare to step forward. It sounds convincing. It sounds real. And yet, when you finally touch it, you find it's hollow, a paper tiger. Most men don't learn this truth because they never get close enough to test it. They stop at the first growl. They turn away before the first step. And so, in their mind, fear remains this towering beast that must be avoided at all costs. But fear doesn't shrink from thinking about it. It shrinks from action. The moment you act, the moment you cross the invisible line you've drawn in your own mind, fear's teeth fall out. Take Alexander the Great. At 18, he stood before armies twice the size of his own. He didn't wait for the fear to vanish before commanding his men. He rode into the thick of it, spear in hand, and in doing so taught his soldiers the most important lesson of war, that courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving anyway. Fear feeds on hesitation. Every second you stand still, it grows heavier. But when you move toward it, you take away its only weapon, your imagination. There's a strange thing that happens when you face fear directly. It transforms. What once looked like a predator becomes a teacher. It shows you where you've been hiding. It points to the exact doorway you need to walk through to grow. So here's the choice, and it will come to you again and again. Do you want to live at the mercy of shadows? Or will you burn through them until only light remains? Men waste too much time waiting to feel motivated. They treat motivation like some rare bird that might land on their shoulder if they stand quietly enough. But motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. And if you depend on it, you'll live a life of starts and stops. The truth? Movement comes first. Motivation follows. Think of a rusted wheel. At first, it barely budges. You lean into it, straining, and it moves only an inch. Push again, it groans, resists. Push again, suddenly it turns a little easier. And after enough effort, it's spinning so freely you can move it with one hand. That's your life. That's your discipline. The first days of building a habit will feel heavy, almost impossible. But once you've put in the work, momentum begins to carry you, and you no longer need to feel like it to keep going. This is why the strongest men I've known treat their days like clockwork. They don't negotiate with themselves in the morning. They don't ask, "Do I want to do this today?" They simply do it. Whether the sun is shining or the rain is pouring, they lace up their boots and move. Look at Hemingway. He wrote every morning, rain or shine, hangover or not. Not because the muse visited him at dawn, but because writing was the work of his life, and he understood that waiting for inspiration was just another form of procrastination. If you want to build a body, write a book, start a business, repair your relationships, start moving now. Not when you feel ready, not when you feel inspired, because momentum is the engine that drags motivation behind it like a stubborn mule. One foot forward, then another, and soon the man you wanted to be will no longer feel far away, because you've already become him in motion. Without discipline, everything else collapses. A man without it may have dreams, intelligence, even charm, but he will be carried away by every impulse, every distraction, every new desire that flickers across his mind. Discipline is the spine that holds a man upright when the winds of life try to bend him. It's the quiet agreement you make with yourself. I will do what I said I would do, even when I don't feel like it. Most men think discipline is about restriction. It isn't. It's about freedom, the kind of freedom that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. When you've kept your word to yourself day after day, you move through the world with a different weight. Your handshake is firmer, your voice steadier. People sense it before you speak. Think of Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai. He didn't become legendary because he was naturally gifted. He became legendary because he trained relentlessly, sword in hand at sunrise, practicing until the calluses on his palms split. His discipline made him dangerous, not just to his enemies, but to his own weakness. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not the dramatic moment in the spotlight. It's the hundreds of mornings you get up early, the meals you don't skip, the phone you leave face down so you can finish the work in front of you. And here's the thing. Discipline compounds. The man who can control himself for one day can control himself for two. 2 days become a week becomes a year, and a year is enough to transform your entire life. The world respects a man who commands himself, not because he's perfect, but because he's proven he can be trusted with power. You want to attract success? Then become the kind of man who can bear its weight without collapsing. A strong man does not control the world. He controls his reaction to it. That's the heart of emotional detachment. It's not coldness. It's not pretending you don't feel. It's refusing to let your feelings drive the steering wheel. Too many men think strength means choking down their emotions until they're numb. That's not strength, that's decay. Real strength is feeling the storm and still holding the helm. Picture a seasoned general in battle. Cannon fire, smoke, chaos. Yet his voice stays level. Orders come out clear, measured, decisive. Why? Because he knows panic spreads faster than bullets. If he loses his center, his men lose theirs. This is the skill you need in your own life. When your boss insults you, when your partner disappoints you, when plans collapse, can you remain unmoved? Not dead inside, not dismissive, just steady, seeing the whole board while others are blinded by heat. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. In his journals, he reminded himself to be like the rock against which the waves break, yet it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. That is detachment, the refusal to be tossed around by every emotional current. Why does this matter for success? Because opportunities often appear in moments of chaos. The man who can stay calm when others are losing their heads is the man who sees the opening and takes it. Emotional detachment is not about escaping life storms. It's about becoming the anchor so the ship doesn't break apart. A man's presence is not measured by the volume of his voice, but by the weight of his silence. You've met men like this. They walk into a room, and you feel it before you see them. No boasting, no flashy display, just a grounded energy that says, I am here and I am enough. This kind of presence can't be faked. It's not about posture tricks or memorized body language cues. It's the natural result of a man who knows himself, who has fought his own battles and doesn't need to prove anything. Think of Frederick Douglass. Born into slavery, he escaped, taught himself to read, and became one of the most powerful voices of his time. When he spoke, yes, the words were brilliant, but it was the man behind them that made people listen. He carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who had earned every inch of freedom he stood on. Presence is built in private long before it's displayed in public. It comes from keeping your word, holding your ground, doing the hard things no one else sees. It comes from not needing validation to know your worth. When you cultivate presence, you don't have to chase opportunities, relationships, or recognition. They come to you. People sense something in you they can't quite name, but they want to be near it. And here's the paradox. Presence isn't about trying to be impressive. It's about being fully where you are, without apology, without rush. When you stop fidgeting with the need to be noticed, you give off the one signal that cannot be ignored. You are a man who notices himself first. Indifference isn't apathy. It's not giving up or tuning out the world. It's the power to decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. A man who can master indifference doesn't scatter his strength on every irritation, every distraction, every demand for attention. He knows that not all battles are worth fighting. Some are traps laid to drain his will. Think of the Stoics. They taught that we should concern ourselves only with what we can control. The rest? Let it go. Consider Winston Churchill during World War II. There were moments when the pressure was unbearable, when every newspaper headline screamed defeat, when his own allies questioned his plans. Yet he chose where to focus his fire. He ignored the noise that would derail him. He conserved his strength for what truly mattered, leading a nation to survive. You have a limited amount of energy each day. Every frustration you let steal your attention is a piece of your life wasted. What if you spent that time building instead? This is the art of indifference, the ability to say no to the meaningless so you can say yes to the essential. Ask yourself, what am I giving my power to right now? Is it serving me or is it draining me? Remember, the man who controls what he cares about becomes the man who shapes his own destiny. The rest are shaped by whatever grabs their attention first. Many young men think maturity is about age, experience, or even knowledge. But spiritual maturity, the kind that builds a man worth following, is something deeper. It is the ability to act despite doubt, despite fear, despite not knowing how the story will end. A mature man understands this. The future is always uncertain. Plans will fail. People will disappoint. Circumstances will shift. And yet he moves forward. Look at Abraham Lincoln. Before he became president, he faced countless defeats, failed businesses, lost elections, personal tragedy. He did not wait for perfect conditions or a clear path. He acted with integrity and purpose, knowing the weight of the task ahead, but not paralyzed by it. Spiritual maturity is standing in the gap between who you are now and who you want to be, and refusing to let the fear of failure keep you frozen. It is the quiet voice that says, I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect, but I will keep walking anyway. This kind of maturity teaches patience with the process. It doesn't demand instant success or certainty. It endures through setbacks because it knows the path to greatness is not a straight line. It is a series of steps taken in faith. Ask yourself, can I embrace the unknown with courage? Can I be patient with my own becoming? If the answer is yes, you have begun to grow into a man who attracts not just success, but respect, loyalty, and lasting impact. Every man carries an inner voice. Sometimes it's a quiet guide. Other times, a relentless critic. That voice shapes how you see the world, and more importantly, how you see yourself. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, negativity, or excuses, it's no wonder you feel stuck. You become your own worst enemy, a prisoner in the cage of your thoughts. But you can change the conversation. You can become the man who speaks to himself with honesty and respect, who challenges the lies and embraces the truth. Consider how Teddy Roosevelt faced his inner battles. He described himself as the man in the arena, the one who strives valiantly, who knows failure, who dares greatly. He didn't pretend to be fearless, but he refused to let fear speak louder than purpose. Your mind will try to protect you with stories of why you can't, why now isn't the time, why you're not ready, why the risk is too great. Those stories are just stories. You have the power to write new ones. Try this. When doubt creeps in, don't argue with it. Acknowledge it. Then, firmly but kindly, redirect your focus to what you can control: your actions, your habits, your choices. Your inner dialogue sets the tone for everything you do. Make it a dialogue that fuels courage, builds resilience, and honors your true potential. Remember, the man you become begins with the words you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Success doesn't come from grand gestures or sudden inspiration. It comes from the everyday choices repeated until they become unshakable habits. Routine is the fortress you build around your willpower. It's what protects you on days when motivation is low, when doubts circle like vultures, when distractions scream for your attention. Look at the daily life of Benjamin Franklin. He had a schedule so precise, it was almost sacred. Wake at dawn. Spend the first hour in self-reflection. Plan his day down to the hour. Follow through with unwavering discipline. Franklin knew that greatness wasn't a moment. It was a process. A process forged by small actions done consistently. You want to attract success? Then stop waiting for the right moment to start building your habits. Start now. Make your bed every morning. Write down one goal each day. Choose your battles wisely. And guard these routines like a warrior guards his sword. Because on the battlefield of life, routine is your armor, silent, unseen, but powerful beyond measure. And when life tries to tear you down, routine is the ground you stand on that never shakes. Ask yourself, what daily habit can I start today that my future self will thank me for? Build that habit. Build your fortress. And watch the world bend to the man who stands firm inside it. We live in a culture obsessed with instant results. Screens flash with stories of men who made it overnight, as if success is a lightning strike, sudden, effortless, complete. But those stories are lies. Behind every overnight success is a decade of quiet work no one saw. Invisible hours spent grinding when no one was watching. Failure swallowed, lessons learned, resilience forged. Consider Thomas Edison, the man credited with inventing the light bulb. He tested thousands of materials before finding the right filament. He didn't see failure. He saw steps on the road to success. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The truth is, success is slow, steady, and patient. It's the compound effect of small wins stacked over time. There is no shortcut around the process. So when you see others flaunting their success, remember, you're not behind. You're just on your own timeline. And if you keep showing up, keep doing the work, the results will come. Success doesn't chase the impatient. It waits for the man who knows how to endure. Ask yourself, am I ready to put in the quiet years? Or will I settle for the illusion of quick fixes? Choose endurance. Because the man who endures becomes the man who conquers. In a world that never stops talking, silence becomes a rare and powerful weapon. Men today are drowning in noise, notifications, opinions, distractions, and losing themselves in the flood. But the man who can sit alone with his thoughts without panic or distraction is the man who knows himself best. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the space where your soul can breathe, where clarity grows, where strength is quietly built. Look at the ancient warriors and philosophers. They sought silence not to escape the world, but to understand it, to hear their own voice over the clamor. When you embrace solitude, you discover the truth beneath the masks you wear. You face your fears without anyone to hide behind. You confront your weaknesses and decide which parts of yourself to sharpen like a blade. This silence is a forge, and every man needs time in the fire to become unbreakable. So stop fearing being alone. Seek moments of quiet, even if just 5 minutes a day, and listen. Listen to what your mind and heart have been trying to say beneath the noise. Because in that silence, you'll find the blueprint for the man you were always meant to become. Ask yourself, am I willing to face myself without distraction? Or will I keep running from a silence? The answer will shape your journey more than any book, speech, or mentor ever could. There is a vast difference between wanting success and committing to it. Wanting is easy. It's a flicker of desire that fades when the first obstacle appears. Commitment is a full-throated declaration. I will do what it takes, no matter the cost. A committed man shows up every day, ready to fight for his vision. He doesn't pause to debate if it's the right time or if he's ready. He moves with urgency because he understands that time is a river that never flows backward. Think of Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison would break most men, but his commitment to justice and freedom never wavered. He emerged not as a victim, but as a leader who reshaped a nation. Your commitment will be tested. You will face days when the world tells you to quit. But the man who stays the course builds a momentum that nothing can stop. Remember, half measures bring half results. Full commitment brings transformation. So ask yourself, am I ready to bet on myself with everything I have? Or will I hold back, waiting for guarantees that will never come? Commit, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because the man who commits is the man who becomes unstoppable. We've come to the final truth. Success is not something you chase. It is not a prize to be grabbed or a trophy to be won. Success is a force that responds to the man you become. If you want to attract success, become the man who commands it. The man who shows up with discipline when no one is watching. The man who moves forward despite fear. The man who masters his emotions, chooses his battles, and builds momentum with steady, purposeful action. History remembers those who acted with courage and integrity, not those who waited for perfect conditions. Your story will be no different. So ask yourself, who am I becoming today? What habits am I forging? What fears am I facing? What distractions am I letting go? The answers to these questions will define your future. Remember this: success is drawn to presence. Success follows discipline. Success bows to resilience. Become that man. Live like that man. And success will not be a stranger knocking at your door. It will be the shadow that walks beside you. The journey is yours. The choice is yours. Now go and become the man you were meant to be.